what started as a really slow day on Friday ended up being just a frenzy of activity towards the end. With the module of the stairway, companionway now in place, I've been able to sand away all the margins here. So look at that, it's perfect. It's almost dead level. And I've got the freezer wall in and the galley wall in, all glassed in. And I've been able to then put it in place. I've got to put some fill inside here, but yeah, I'm very, very happy to be able to start to think about integrating this into the bulkhead. This is actually going to provide a lot of structural strength to our bulkheads as well, and obviously once you start integrating modules, they become the structure of the boat. This will have to be ground out to about the same height, around at 50 mil, so that I can get some tabbing in there. I'll put 2 layers of 600 double bias in there, fair it, and then we'll gel coat it and blend it back in again all the way over there. So looking over towards the other dual companionway, I've just come up on Sunday afternoon and having another bash, making some noise. I've actually sanded the margin between the step here as well, so I can now tie that in. And the other more important one is integrating the dual companionway into the dinette module. So I did have quite a bump here, so I'm actually sanding that down and getting it level. And what I'll do is I'll do the same here, 50 millimeters of sanding all the way along, and then I'll be able to tie all of that together and make that one piece all the way around. And yet again, remembering that this boat is all modules with interconnecting walls and bulkheads, all glued, filleted, tabbed in place, forming structure, not just cabinets that are just plopped in place and you know, hopefully hoping to integrate them. They're all physically tabbed and glued, and that's what's going to hold this boat together. Remembering that this whole module here is already a structural product as well. It's actually foam core 20 mil. It's around the thickness of most boats, to be honest, and that is then tied into the main compression bulkhead and then tied into the bridge deck here as well, both inside and out. I've got the internal tabbing and the external tabbing. So important for me to make sure that this thing is never going to crack, because catamarans sustain a lot of flex because the hulls are always wanting to work apart. So I'm making sure that at every stage this boat has fillets holding the bulkheads and all the modules in place, then tabbed, and then re-tabbed again, and then integrated, and so important. And it's going to look like it's all one piece rather than bits and pieces just bogged in. I've got a lot of work to do down here on this cabinet here, but for now I'm going to work my way all the way around here, and then Janet and I are going to get in here and tab all this together and basically get it ready for the final fair and the final gel coat. Same deal down here.
So my job this morning is to cut all the thin strips that we're going to use for dining room to the floor. After Ross has done some sanding on the gel coat yesterday. I wasn't here for that, thank goodness. So I'm just getting ready to do some tabbing in the boat all around the floor, which Ross sanded yesterday. So I'm cutting really thin strips of the cloth, and then I'm going to be putting some surf cloth on top, and then just the pill ply, and that's just kind of the finishing touches around the floors, just to join, finish smoothing off the joins between the lounge suite and the floor, the steps.
Now Janet's got a lot of knowledge. I've sicked her onto something that's really going to take up a lot of time, and that is integrating all of these flanges and modules together. And it's going to be a pretty simple job, but it's going to be quite tedious because we've got quite a lot. So along here where the dinette module and the floor and this companion module meet, I've just filled it with cotton flock and some polyester just to get a filler, and that's about an hour ago, and it's gone off. It's 28 degrees here today, so we've got all of this margins that need to be laminated with 1 layer of 600 just to provide fill, and then a layer of finishing cloth, and then some peel ply, and that's going to finish those. And then all we need to do is come back, give them a sand and gel coat them. Ready for that?
I am.
Spet, what'd you do all morning?
Just cut cloth. All morning.
All morning. He's been cutting this peel ply.
And the stuff I hate cutting the most, I mean, I actually enjoy cutting cloth, but this one, the
peel ply,
so slippy. It's really hard to do a decent job with it.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. And while Janet's on that, I'm going to be over the other side doing exactly the same thing. I've just got to a point where I've got a lot of preparation done over the weekend, which was pretty noisy. And now we can come in and just integrate this, just like I did with this module here. So at least we're ready for the final flow coat or gel coat finish along here.
Ross is down in his hole.
Been down my hole.
Just doing all the edges just to join them all. You can see how he's done the floor down there. Now this is the freezer wall that he's putting just a couple of layers of cloth on. And I finished my side. Well, almost. Ross is going to finish it for me because I've copped out.
Copping out.
So if you look on the other side, I've done the floor here. I don't know if you can see it, there's little bits of peel play. You can see that I'm not quite down, which is what I meant to do. And then we've just done just underneath the electrics and all the way along here. So that's all joined now. So the lounge is definitely joined to the steps, which is joined to the boat. And the bit I haven't done is over there on the edge of the cupboard because I forgot about it. So just there. So Ross is going to do that when he finishes on the other side. I'm going to go home and see Lexi and take her for a walk.
Janet came up here at about 7 o'clock last night, and I'd taken over from her at about 2 when she gave up the will to keep going. So essentially we've started right over there and come all the way down here, all the way around here, and integrated these modules to the bridge deck. And similarly, we're finished over here as well. Integrated this stair module I put in last week, the freezer unit, all that's now been glassed in, and it's all been peel plied all the way along, and also this galley wall. And then when she arrived, I was down in here. Imagine me down in here trying to glass this in, but this wall's now in, the freezer wall, and I've also done it into the next cabin. So I've tried to get it as level as possible. It's not perfect, but there will be a floor over the top of this whole thing. So now everything's basically constructed and it's totally solid in here now. I can rip all the peel ply off and start to tidy it up, because the next part of this is going to be a massive gel coating session with a spray gun, and that's not going to be too much fun. I do need to sand away a 50mm margin along here, all the way along the bottom of this dinette module, so that I can tab this to the floor on the outside. So it's tabbed on the inside, tabbed on the outside, and then I'll mask it all up and spray along there, and then we'll have to polish it back. So there's going to be a lot of polishing, a lot of fairing coming up. Just going to pop up and see Janet. She's working this morning at Marine Rescue, and I'm up in the Marine Rescue office, and check out the view. These guys have got a stunning view. So they overlook the Currambine Creek out inlet into Jervis Bay. And good morning.
Good morning.
Time did you start this morning?
6:15.
6:45. Yeah. Early morning start.
Yeah, it's going to get earlier too.
So Janet sits here and logs in, and as you can see, it's a pretty substantial operation for a small country town, but we're a pretty major boating centre here, and we've got monitors and the works, and then she looks out over the bay. It's not a bad office really, is it?
No, when I came in this morning there was just a couple of dolphins out here. I didn't get my phone out quick enough.
So what are you doing here? You've got boats logged in, and
boats. This shows the boats that Long John and transit. This is just open CPN. That means I can look at boats and track boats while they're on the water. It just gives me more detail of where they are, if they've got AIS, of course.
Yep.
And this is the radios. So these are the old ones that are turned off. Then we've got the DSC radio there, where you've got, you know, your distress signal you
button
can
there.
send.
Yep.
So that's what we would wait for a message to come in on that. And this is 27 megahertz, which is rarely used now, but we still monitor.
I used to use it in the kayaks.
Yeah. So here we listen on channel 16. Obviously, I've got mine on headset. There's another one over there I've got on speaker, so I can hear it when I don't want to sit with my headset on.
I'm trying to establish the back of our helm station and how this is all going to work, and what I've found is that this here, the back part of our main MFD, our multifunction display, has about a 60mm protrusion into this cavity, and then of course you've got all the wires, the NMEA, the power, Ethernet cables, everything else that comes out of the back of that. So I've come to the conclusion I'm going to need to cut this out, because what I need to do, I need to establish a margin where I actually produce a wall here that creates the cabinet for access to the back of the helm station. Because I've cut into the back of the boat here, this is going to be a complete cabinet here for access into the back of the helm, to the hydraulic helm, and obviously to all my engine controls and the like. So very importantly, I've actually got to work out exactly how far this is going to come out and provide an area where all the wires and the works can come down into those conduits down there, and it's going to get pretty complicated. So I've bought my Garmin display up here. It's 12-inch, and I've got all the details here of the template that I need to cut to make this fit. And this is a non-touch screen. It's becoming more and more popular to have non-touch screen, and to be honest, I don't love touch screens. I play a bit of guitar, and I also do a lot of sanding, and those fingertips of mine do not read very well on these touch screens, and I'm always in trouble with navigation things and with phones and with texting for misspelling stuff, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I've got a lot of calluses on my fingertips, and it is pretty common with tradesmen to have pretty horrendous texting skills because we've got pretty tough fingers. So I've started working up here on the fitment of this template, and obviously I've got the Garmin template here, which is basically going to fit right in here, and I do need to establish this fit. Alright, so now I've got that worked out. Clearly a little bit of pinch point there, and I can do some fine tuning when I get this thing in place. But I need to have a wall down here, all the way down to this fridge compartment down here. I need a piece of material to extend up from here, all the way up to here, all the way along, and then that'll actually engage back into this area here where the winch plinth is. Now this winch plinth is very important, because this is going to have to come out from here and intersect with this piece here. So, and that actually is almost perfect, because that gives me a lot of room to put my winches down in here. I've resisted the temptation to complete this area until I got my helm station designed, and I'm pretty happy with the result. I think this is going to work really well. The problem I've got is I've got to make a couple of intersecting cabinets, and I have to reinforce all of this section, because this is going to carry quite a lot of load with regard to the lines and the winches that are going to go down there. So I've got to make sure that I get this right, and I was discussing with my mate Darren yesterday, who's got a 40-foot catamaran, or shunning catamaran. We're going to have a tremendous amount of load actually pulling this way on this whole unit, and it's going to be all integrated, but very, very importantly, it's going to actually have some extra gussets and some extra support put in place. Now I've deliberately left this part all separate. This all has to be cut in, and although I've finished the cabinet underneath down in here, this is all tabbed in, the top isn't, because I still need to trim off this white flange all the way around before I can actually put this in place, and then I can work out the size of the panels that are going to sit on top. I need to change the scene. I need to get away from the boat and get up here in the factory for a little while. The electrics, the stern sugar scoops, the helm station, the tabbing of all the modules are starting to really grind on me this week, so I'm going to lay up some flat sheet. I need a couple more sheets of 20mm H80 foam laminated up, or I can't complete all the boxing around the back of the helm, and I've got a number of other things like the rudder posts and everything to deal with. So if I laminate it up now, I'll have stock to draw from. So I've got my electrical table here, it's just a mess, and I've got to tidy this up as well. So Janet's away this weekend, her and Ellen are gone to Melbourne to see a show, so I'm basically going to work all weekend and get some work done. Sorry about the noise, but everything's happening in here today. So I've got the machine going, the compressor running, as you can hear in the background, and I'm ready to lay up another flat sheet in here in the room. And this room's always a bit of a challenge to reset, but it's ready to go. I've got my cloth cut, I'm just going to get straight into it. Well, the one thing I love about using polyester and vinyl ester is how quickly you can turn around a job. You generally 2 or 3 hours on a day. It's 25 degrees today, so 2 hours ago I finished laying this up. I'm able to flip the sheet over and get started on another one. So I can do the other side. This has actually gone off enough for me to be able to flip it over and do it again. And basically I can turn around a sheet in a day, whereas if this was epoxy, it'd be a 2-day affair. At the end of the day, it's generally, for the purpose I'm using it for, this is absolutely fine, particularly because the whole boat is vinyl ester and polyester. I actually really don't appreciate a lot of the crap that polyester cops. I mean, it's pretty amazing these days. The quality of polyester these days is far superior to what was being built or produced 40-50 years ago, but by the same token, have a look at most of the boats that are still floating around. They're all polyester, and vinyl ester is just another step up. It's a much better product, but these sheets are all polyester. It's all internal furniture. Yeah, it might be a little bit heavier, damn sight cheaper, and a damn sight easier to work with. I've got all manner of stuff going on here. This is the structure I'm going to have behind my helm, and then this is a new top that I'm going to make. I'm going to discard this one and use it for something else, and this is going to form the top of our refrigerator cabinet in here. So I've decided I'm going to put a whole new top all in one piece all the way across. On the original boat it actually had a step down, such as in this photo here. You can see how it actually stepped down. I'm going to keep it all one level all the way across because I need the space for our refrigerator and also for some storage above that. And also this new section I'm going to be putting in here is going to have access for our TV and entertainment stuff, possibly some speakers, etc. So what I've decided to do here is to cut out this part where the holes have been drilled there of the rear cabin wall. I'm going to leave the bottom there underneath that. I'm actually going to leave that there because I believe it might form a good bit of structure for the base of our winch platform. However, it may be cut out. I'm just going to cut it out gingerly, section by section, until I get down to the point where I know that I can fit the motors for the winch and also for the reinforcement of this entire unit, because this is going to have to be incredibly strong to handle all this this tension and pulling from the actual winches themselves. So there's a lot going on in this area right now. So I've got my cardboard template out there. I'm going to basically cut that, and that'll form obviously the complete top of this cabinet. And while I've got the sheet that I've just laid up in the factory is going off, tomorrow I'll be able to come in and basically form this entire cabinet and get it all glassed in for our arrival of our fridge next week. It won't be being installed, but I'll be able to dry fit the refrigerator, and that's going to be pretty exciting. Right, so I've got to work out the base now, and I have to virtually replicate the top of this because the bottom there is going to be a kick. So I'm going to make a panel over on this side and another one over here, which is actually going to be this piece here. So I've actually worked out from below this exact size, and I'll just take a template off that and make this bottom part exactly the same, and then I'll have one across the front that'll actually then hold the base of the fridge. All right, I got my sheet laid up yesterday, and it's been that warm that luckily it's absolutely rock hard, and that's even the next morning. Generally I have to wait a day or so to let it green off, but in the sort of heat we have here from about October onwards to about April, you just don't have to wait. Polyester and vinyl ester stuff just goes off like that, and although it's not fully cured, it's still ready to use. It's quite a large piece, and it's not going to fit perfectly because I've still got to trim the bulkhead it's sitting on, but you get the idea. Yeah, so it's not quite level, and I do need to drop it a little bit. You see under here, You can see here that this isn't level here, so this is going to have to come down around about 1 centimetre, and I'll have to trim that across there. And once I've done that, this whole thing will sit down where it needs to be. It's certainly an easy way to make a cabinet, but the nice thing is that what this allows me to do once this is in place is complete the helm station area. I'm pretty happy to be able to get into that because that's been an area that's been plaguing me for some time. The cabinet that I have out here, it's waiting for me to complete this section. Once this section's complete, I can basically bog the whole thing in and start to reinforce this guy from within, and then I'm going to remove this, take this down to the factory, fair it up, spray it up, get it ready to fit. Pretty exciting times to get all this sort of stuff in place. That's the final part that really does need to go in. Then the only last part I really need to concentrate on now to get the inside all tabbed in, ready for final finishing, is the galley. I've decided to put in this floor in different sections because I want to allow a fair amount of ventilation underneath the refrigerator, and also to be able to get my wiring up here. We're going to have a switch here for all of the lights, and ultimately we need to make sure that we can access all of that through some sort of a conduit which will come up through the floor here. I'm going to glue this base down, and then I'm actually going to glue this lid down, and then I'm going to be able to form the side panels of the cupboard as well, and basically just get the thing all formed up today, so that then tomorrow when it's all set with the epoxy, I can come in and do all the subsequent tabbing inside and out to make sure that I really get this thing solid. And then my fridge should arrive on Monday, and I can almost do a dry fit, and that's really what I'm trying to get to, is having that fridge here so that I can make sure it fits, and then I'm going to put it into storage until the boat's launched. So I'm not going to leave anything in here of any value, including my batteries. I'm not leaving anything in the boat. All right, lunchtime. It's taken me all morning, but I've pretty much got the essence of this together. I can't really put it together until I get the glue sets on the top and the bottom, but you can sort of get a bit of a feel for how I'm working this cabinet. It's going to look pretty neat, pretty standard sort of trapezoidal sort of affair, I guess you'd call it. There's going to be a top and a bottom, obviously. There's no point in wasting this part here because that's going to get cut out for the fridge, but I'll put a strip across the top, strip across the bottom. I'll get all of this in when I come back from lunch, and what that'll do is give me the chance on Monday morning to almost do a dry fit of the fridge.